some big decisions to make this offseason. Yes, who they're going to take at 18, whether or not they're going to extend Geno Smith, whether or not they're going to extend or trade DK Metcalf. But that's not what we're talking about right now, Bump. Right now, instead, we're looking at decisions that need to be made about the draft class of 2022. Some key starters in this group. Who are you extending? Who are you letting play out their deal? I'm talking Charles Cross, Ken Walker, Boye Mafe, Abe Lucas, Kobe Bryant, underrated.
Super underrated.
And Riq Woolen, maybe the most polarizing of this group. Where do you want to start?
You know what? Let's start with extending, because I don't think there's too many out there that I'm just saying, you know what, let's just go get it right now.
Pay everyone.
Pay everybody. But I start with Charles Cross. I think he's been the most reliable out of these guys. And you can't. Injuries happen, right? There's no way around it. If you play enough football, whatever sport, you're going to get banged up. You're going to miss some games. But Charles Cross only missed a handful of games, if that, in his career so far. So I think you got to go with the reliable, especially when you have a decent offensive lineman, and we know how hard they are to get here in Seattle. I think you have to roll with him and keep him. I like it. The questionable offensive lineman is clearly Abe Lucas for the reasons that I just said you should sign Charles Cross, because Abe's been banged up. And because he's been banged up, you have to use that to your advantage if you are the Seahawks when you're negotiating. We were talking about extending or just playing out your contract. But the only guy that I see right now that I'm extending for sure out of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 guys, I'm going to go with Charles Cross. I think Riq Woolen, the polarizing one, has to put together another season, I feel like, and then we start talking them. But Charles is the only one I'm looking at saying for sure, let's get it.
I think Charles is facing 2 hurdles here. Number one, as a former top 10 pick, there's a lot of expectation, and when you don't meet those sky-high expectations, it's seen as a failure. And there is a big, big, big cavern between first-team All-Pro and, like, bust, including very serviceable starter. And that's where I see Charles Cross. Like, Charles Cross, a former number 9 overall pick, is a serviceable starter who would be a starting tackle on a lot of teams in the NFL. Most teams in the NFL. He is not right now a top, I don't know, would you say 5? Certainly top 3 tackle in the NFL. There are guys that are 36 that are part of that group. Like, sometimes it takes a while to really grow into that role. So I don't think I've seen some folks say, well, hey, if you don't have the Pro Bowl nods, if you don't have the All-Pro, it makes the decision easier. I think it's still an easy decision when you look at the pieces you have on the offensive line to go, this is the best piece. Extend this piece. You've solved 1 of 5. You know what I mean? Keep that one there.
Yeah, and I think it's most people or a lot of people look at the accolades and say, he doesn't have any, so why would you want to keep him?
Sure.
So there's the film that I watched that says, yes, I want to keep Charles Cross. I think he plays better football than he doesn't for the most part. And then you go to just the grade. So PFF, got to use him, right? When it comes to overall grade, he's ranked the 10th tackle out of 141. When it comes to pass blocking, he's ranked 15th. When it comes to run blocking, he's ranked 16th. There's something that we say a lot on this show. Just be middle of the pack when it comes to that offense, right? Just protect the quarterback at an average rate. Just run the football and be right in the middle, and we think that you can do some things. Well, that's pretty much what Charles Cross is. He's better than just right in the middle. He's 10th out of 141 in one category, 15th and 16th. That's on paper. When I watch him on film, he's going to get beat. And I think that obviously, as an offensive lineman, the only time they're calling your name or your number is when you get beat or when you report as eligible. So people see him get beat, and they throw their hands up and say, that number 9 pick, he has no accolades, he's getting beat. Everyone gets got in this league. I think you have to keep Charles Cross. And I'm interested. Now you have, yesterday we were talking about it, Stacy, the Hawks got a new run game coordinator. They got a run game specialist. They are invested in this run game. It starts with Charles Cross. Obviously, it starts with the center, but I think that he's your best lineman. You got to keep him. Sign him up.
Ken Walker. This is tough. So when I look at Ken Walker, I don't think are going to need to necessarily, I need to check out the running back market, which has changed a little bit, but you don't need to shell out a ton of money. However, while I don't know that Zach Charbonnet's success in 2024 meant Ken Walker lost his chance at a starting role, right? He had earned that role. I do think it might have affected the total earnings because if you look at it, you go, well, I had nothing to gamble on before, but now I know that I do, which is Zach Charbonnet. I can gamble on Zach Charbonnet. So do I want to gamble on Ken in the same way? this is probably, I could be completely wrong because, again, it's not going to be some back-breaking contract, but maybe this is someone I feel comfortable letting play out this season on his current deal. What about you?
K9?
Yeah.
He has the extend me type of talent, but he has the past season or so, he's had I'm not reliable as far as availability. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get banged up. But that's the life of a running back. It's rare that you get the Derrick Henry. Najee Harris has gone for like 3 straight seasons over 1,000 yards. I just saw that the other day.
It's like some Mike Evans, kind of like, oh.
Just sneaky with it.
Yeah.
Just sneaky. But you have to be on the football field. And that's another thing is just when you talk about the health of a player, it's not even a personal knock. You are going to get hurt. But some guys like Henry just play every game. A guy like Saquon Barkley finds a way to play every single game. I think just because of him not being in the lineup every week, you got to wait and see. Because an injury-prone player, that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why these players are injury-prone, how they become injury-prone. Just some guys cannot stay healthy. It's just part of the game. You got to figure out if Ken Walker's one of those guys. Like I said, he has the extend me type of talent. But he's got to have that discipline, and he's got to be available.
I find Riq Woolen to be the most interesting of the bunch because Riq Woolen has sky-high potential, sky-high talent, and I thought the Rams game was kind of an example of the best and the question marks, right? There's, I think, a pick he has in that one when Stafford, I want to say he's targeting Puka Nacua. I don't know. I sent you guys the video, and it's a super athletic play. You just see, like, this is Riq when he's on.
Yep.
And then, of course, there's the final play of the game, which is that late touchdown in overtime that ends up winning it for the Rams. And I don't know that that's fully on Riq. Like, I don't really have enough of the X's and O's knowledge to be able to be like, I'll tell you exactly why this play fell apart. But I felt like that was an example of what you get and what you miss with him.
Yeah, I think with Riq, it's him trying to figure out just how to be consistent. All the physicals are there. When you are making a DB on your video game or whatever, you think of the greatest DB you can make, he's probably going to look something like Riq Woolen. He's probably going to be about 6'3", long arms, runs a 4.2, has good ball skills, used to be a wideout, so he understands route combinations and how to attack the football. It's the other things. It's sometimes you just don't make that play. And Riq has shown that he's capable of making the big play, right? You didn't make it against the Rams. There's also a crossing route that he could have attacked. Those are just, you're learning. And when you start off so quickly the way that he did his rookie season, having 6 interceptions, going to the Pro Bowl, it can be fool's gold sometimes. You can start to, the public can, the NFL can, and you can as a player start believing that maybe you don't need to pay too much attention to details when it comes to certain things. And I think Riq Woolen is in that area where he's figuring out, okay, what can I get away with? What can't I get away with? Because there are guys, Deion Sanders, the greatest DB of all time, in my opinion. Deion would bait people. He would look the other way. He'd use horrible technique to make you throw that football and go get him. He knew himself. He knew what he can get away with. I think that as a player, now Riq, this is his 3rd year, going into his 4th year, he knows himself the best he's ever known himself because going into the NFL, he had only played like 14, 15 games at the corner position.
Right.
So now he's getting these valuable reps. But you have to make plays, and you got to come up big. So we'll see. I think Riq has a lot to learn, and that's the exciting part because he's still so green at this position.
I'll say this. I could deal with a corner who was recently transitioned to corner, had a ton of upside, a ton of potential, and was still making mistakes on the field. Where I think some people go, well, wait a minute, is with the rumors of stuff off the field. And I don't mean like bad behavior. Like Riq, by all accounts, a perfectly fine teammate. Like he seems like a funny guy. But I do think there have been some work ethic questions under Pete Carroll and under Mike Macdonald. There were questions about, are you showing up on time? Are you giving it your all? Are you letting things get in your head? Those are the questions that I think are worth exploring. Because if they would, let's say that Riq hadn't played last year under Mike Macdonald and was with another team, I'd be like, all right, well, Mike Macdonald seems like a strict guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? He seems no nonsense. If Riq comes here and, is goofing off or doesn't have great work ethic, I think Mike Macdonald's not going to let that fly. But this happened under Mike Macdonald.
Yeah, but I also think he didn't let it fly either because there were some discipline things going on.
Clearly,
like Riq didn't start a couple games because something was going on. And that's part of just maturing, man. I found out fairly quickly. I'm from L.A., and in L.A., I can walk 2 miles down the street and not see anybody I know and just blend right in. It ain't like that in Seattle. There's only so many places you can go. When I was coming up in the league, we used to go to Amber, Tia Lou's, Trinity, and one other spot, and we knew we were going to see everybody there, right? And the spotlight is on you a bit differently here in Seattle. So that's learning how to mature and how to move. But he's also young. You want him to enjoy his time and experience life or whatnot. But it's just priorities, man. And I think if and when he locks that down, there's another step that he can take in his development. And I do think that Mike Macdonald didn't let stuff slide. I mean, he didn't start a couple games.
Yeah. Let's see. I haven't stopped too much on Boye Mafe. I really like Boye. He brings a lot to your defense. We've talked so much about the importance of depth, particularly at that position. He also doesn't have the numbers that makes him like a candidate that's going to, really cost you a ton. It's not like he's coming off a year where he had 14 sacks and you're going, oh, great. Now you got to pay this guy way more than you normally would. I think he could be a, quote, team-friendly extension, and that there's still a lot of upside. He's a good piece for you. I don't know that his ceiling is, leading the league in sacks, but that's okay. You're not paying him to.
No, this is another young man who didn't start playing football until high school, so he's still learning his position. And I think with Boye, the reason why I would look at extending him now is just for part of the reasons that you said. What if he comes out this next season, he has 10, 11 sacks? And now that prices went up a few $1 million.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, you lock him down and you commit to his development and say, we'll give you some security. Let's just get this thing done. I think Boye Mafe is one of the perfect candidates when it comes to extension, because you see what he can be. Every single year, Boye Mafe has gotten better and better, but not to the extent where you think there are going to be a bunch of teams out there just calling to get after him. I think you extend that young man.
I found it a fun exercise to do this when it came to these names. Is there anyone on this list, Charles Cross, Ken Walker, Boye Mafe, Abe Lucas, Kobe Bryant, Riq Woolen, that you truly feel you could see a world where they go to another team after this offseason and free agency because you don't extend them? They go to another team and find success, and you're kicking yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a Kobe Bryant dude from day one, and I think he's coming into his own. He's figuring it out. He battled some injuries to start his career. I believe it was like his toe and a hamstring or something like that, and he finally got healthy last year, got an opportunity. It's just how much do they value Kobe Bryant? I think he adds some value to himself. When you can play safety, corner, and the nickel spot, you add some value. I'm looking at this list, Stacey, and I would bring everyone back.
It's a good draft class.
I literally would bring everyone back. Riq has had good moments. Kobe Bryant picked 6. Abe Lucas, when he's healthy, he's on point. Boye Mafe, 6 sacks last year. Ken Walker, he's a 1,000-yard rusher for sure if he stays healthy. And then Charles Cross honing down on that offensive line. I know a lot of people like to move things around and go and get the shiny new toy, but good teams develop their draft picks too. And I think that this is a good group. This could be a core group that can help you make that push to get into the playoffs, because when healthy, everybody on this list is playing 90% of the snaps.
Would you say overall one of the more successful draft classes for John and Co.
I'd say
the
so.
last couple of years?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I get it. Like you look at this group and, maybe there's one way to look at it where you go, well, how many of these guys are first-team All-Pros? How many of these guys are Pro Bowlers? The answer, Riq Woolen's been a Pro Bowler. Obviously, his most successful season was his rookie year. Ken Walker was a runner-up for Offensive Rookie of the Year, but, since then it's been a little quiet. However, you've got how many starters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, arguably 5 starters from a draft class. That's insane.
Yeah,
those are the kind of classes that you need to pad your resume with. You're not going to come out and get your first team All-Pro, but that's how you build your team is with those guys.
Foundational pieces.
That's exactly right.
That's it. They're young. So I'm excited about this group. I'm even more excited about the new coaching staff coming in that Mike Macdonald's bringing, and him getting better as a head coach after going through a full season and figuring out what this NFL head coach life is about.